Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Roll the Dice with Dave. It seems like it's been forever since I've done a broadcast, but I'm really excited for tonight. Get to talk about one of my favorite places, one of the happiest places on earth, with somebody that actually I have a lot of affection for, and I can't wait to bring her on and listen to what she has to say. But before we get into all that, just to cover some, housekeeping things. If you are watching the broadcast live, if you can go ahead and hit the like button if you are on Facebook Live. Also, go ahead and share the video. I think a lot of people are going to want to hear what she has to say about her most recent vacation. And if you are checking me out live on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe to Roll the Dice with Dave. So this way you can go ahead and get the latest videos and just be notified on anything that is coming up. I want to go ahead and say what's up. My man Ronnie Parker has just joined. It's good to see you on here, brother. I know you got some young kids, so you may want to actually tune into this. This is going to be a great conversation revolving around that. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into the introductions and bring out my guest. And my guest this evening is Annie Middelberg, formerly known to me as Annie Snodgrass. And I had to ask you because I couldn't remember your maiden name. How are you doing, Annie?
I'm good. That's fine. We can just pretend it didn't exist. That's what I do.
Well, there's a couple of things that we may have to pretend didn't exist because I want you to talk about introduce yourself and just kind of let everybody know who you are. But also in that piece, if you can go ahead and let people know about one of our first interactions. Actually, maybe our first two interactions. So introduce yourself and then go into our first interactions.
All right. So my name is Annie Middelberg. I went to ECU and was a hospitality major. So I ended up in several of Rivera's classes. In the very first class, he said, we're going around this biz lecture hall, and he is like, if you want bonus points, give me your favorite dance move. And so everyone else is doing like, oh, the cabbage patch and the sprinkler. And I was actually taking dance class at the time. So I was like, well, my favorite move's a tour jeté, and it's kind of hard to do. And he's like, well, all right, come down. So I was like, okay. And so I march on down to the bottom and kick off my shoes and proceed to just do a tour jeté in front of the class.
Actually, that's probably one of the most momentous dance moves somebody has done in order to get the extra credit points on that first day of class. You had already long graduated by this point, but I had one student. It was probably heading into maybe my last year, the year before my last year. And he got up there and was dancing like the Jabberwockies. I mean, dude was just killing it. So he asked if he could plug in his own iPod. So he plugged in his iPod. He had his music, and he said, "Yeah, I heard, man, that this class you get to dance for extra credit. I've been working on a so he had like a routine planned out and everything, and had music. Dude did so good. He must have danced for about a minute, and the whole class we just sat there in awe of this guy. But yours, I think, was one of the first ones that just completely." Just set it off.
I remember this like kind of weird silence where people were like, I don't know what just happened.
They were probably thinking, man, this chick is weird, man. She's up here.
I think I finished that class with like 45 extra credit points.
Credit points. Yeah, I was about to say that there's some that always just did everything. Do you remember shortly after that, our second interaction? And I know you were worried about this interaction, but do you remember this interaction?
I think so. I think this is, you're doing a slideshow, and I think
I misspelled the word.
Yeah, you misspelled. I think it was principal. I've been trying to write, and I think it was you used.
Actually, I think it was privilege.
Privilege. That's what it was. You put an E in it. Yeah, you put like ledge at the end. And I was like, this is really bothering me. And you were just always so laid back. So I emailed you, and I was like, hey, just so you know, this word is misspelled in the slide.
I thought it was so funny because most people wouldn't say anything. They just sit there and just kind of whatever.
I sat there at my computer and I'm like, do I want to? I was like, yeah, whatever. So it's funny though because, oh God, probably a couple months later, I was talking to my parents and I kept saying like Rivera. My dad's like, well, is he a professor? And I was like, yeah, he's Dr. Rivera. He's like, you don't call him just Rivera to his face, right? You use doctor. I was like, no, everyone calls him Rivera. No one calls him Dr. Rivera.
I was about to say, I'm trying to remember when that just kind of kicked in and everybody was like, oh man, that's Rivera. And it just kind of stuck because I really can't recall going by Dr. Rivera in a classroom setting. I did outside the classroom setting with other professors. But all the students just knew me as as Rivera.
I
And
remember you walked in and you told us that if you seemed stressed that year, you were up for, and because I'm a freshman in
I was
college,
up for tenure and promotion. Yeah.
I thought it was a 10-year promotion. Like, I didn't know what tenure was. So I was like, oh man, he's been here for 10 years. That's pretty impressive.
No, I was 10 years. I was just going into my 5th year, and that was nuts. But no, those were some good times. So, but yeah, and I love how we've just stayed in touch. And now I get to see kind of your life arc, because now you're a mom, right? You're a wife, you're a mother. I've seen these life arcs, and a lot of your friends now that you were close with at ECU. I don't know if Felicity is on or not. It would be cool if she is, if she would give us some indication if she is or if she isn't.
Hi, Felicity.
But
up.
she's also a wife and a mom, right? So I remember seeing all of you just as young women kind of trying to figure out where you want to go in life, to now you're moms, you have kids. At least the appearance is you have your,
Felicity and I knew each other before ECU, right?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, so Felicity has 2 younger sisters, but her youngest sister is my age, and we were in kindergarten together. So I've known Felicity 20-ish years. Like, I've had sleepovers in her house.
Wow, that is something else. Oh, my sister hopped on, and Josiah, you're definitely going to want to listen to this, because I know you got that Disney trip planned coming up. So we're going to go ahead and jump into Disney. Let's go ahead and start jumping into the Disney conversation. So this first little piece, the review, and I want to get your take on this. I asked you before we started, hey, did you get a chance to do Rise of the Resistance? So I want you to do your best without really spoiling anything, but what were your thoughts on Rise of the Resistance and the whole process of trying to get on that ride?
So for people who don't know, Rise of the Resistance is like the newest, hottest ride in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and you don't actually line up for it. You get a virtual queue. So at 7 a.m, you have to log onto your app and try to get a boarding group. So I had my mom in the room with me, and we switched phones because my phone sometimes just doesn't like to get service. And I was like, I have the fastest fingers. Give me your phone. You can try on mine. And then of course at 6:59, Eleanor comes over and starts poking the screen. And I'm like, no, don't touch it. So
just to give people some context, Eleanor is her beautiful daughter. Eleanor is about what, 1.5, 2?
Yeah, so she's 21 and a half months. So
okay, so she's almost
almost 2. She'll be 2 in August. So very, very much toddler. So anyway, so we're sitting there, and I got in and I got the boarding group, and I'm like, okay, cool. And you have no idea how long it's going to take you for your boarding group to be called, because if it goes down, if there's any sort of errors. So we got boarding group 53, which I was like, okay, this is decent. So we got to ride about, I think 12:30-ish. I know we went to get lunch.
Oh, wow.
And while we were eating lunch, it said we could go. So we kind of shoveled the rest of our food in our mouths and went over there. And then because we had Eleanor, we had to rider swap. So they went in, they scanned our magic bands and our tickets, and Joe and I went ahead and got in line and did the whole queue. And my parents and my dad's friend Craig was with us. So they watched Eleanor, went through the queue, did the ride. Then we got out. My parents went in, scanned their bands. We can't figure out if they had to wait the whole time or if they got a shortened line, but then they went through and did it. I have to say, it was a cool ride. I don't think it lives up to all the hype. I was
way. You were disappointed? Oh man,
I was a little disappointed, just because I feel like it's a lot of moving around in front of a screen, kind of like what Universal's getting a lot of flack for. Like a lot of their rides now, it's just screens. There was a little too much screen for me.
You thought there was too much screen? Oh man, see,
and there's some really cool life-size props that blew my mind. Yes. But
especially honestly, the Kylo Ren piece that had me so hyped. I would have waited 3 hours in line just for that piece.
Really?
Oh yeah, I loved it.
I liked the walkers. That was because they teased that the whole time they were building it. So that was, but yeah, I actually preferred Smuggler's Run over Rise of the Resistance.
I love it. So look at Felicity says, start refreshing the app. Queue page at 6:58 every second, and you will get it. So she said she didn't like Star Wars, but she loved it. Annie is crazy. So I will agree with Felicity on that. I just thought it was so cool. My family thought it was cool. And actually, I got up and sacrificed sleep time to make sure we got on there. So everybody else was still just zone coasting at 7 a.m. And I'm sitting there and I start hitting it even before that. Right. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, all right. And I hit almost as soon as my phone turns to 7. And I don't think we had a time until like maybe 1 o'clock, because then I know they do the second round at 2 for people to try and get into a second boarding. But if you already have a boarding that day, you can't get a second one. It's for people who maybe missed out. So
no, well, I mean, with Life with a Toddler, we're up generally that time anyway. So
other things about Rise of the Resistance. So you said you just felt it didn't live up to the hype. Can you give me one thing about Rise of the Resistance that you walked away from and just went, man, that is absolutely just the coolest?
I did that very first reveal. So like, you go through the line and you get on the little transport, and then, the storyline really kind of starts. And that first reveal with it, kind of spoilers, but I feel like there's a lot of photos of it online, but like the stormtroopers and you're on that ship, that was kind of like wow, this is like completely life size, actually built, not that was cool. I mean, and I'm not gonna say it didn't like the ride. It
didn't live up to Annie's expectations of maybe what we were expecting from Disney. Is that kind of fair to say?
It's the way they marketed it as this like top of the line new technology, things you've never seen before, and I was like, I've really seen all of the features before.
Yeah, because they had the trackless, right? So the carts are trackless. You don't see tracks on the ground, which I thought was pretty cool.
SeaWorld's Penguin Ride also does that.
I know, right? So I love it, but I still think it was pretty cool because Disney has that in a couple of different rides. They have the trackless thing, and we'll get to that. But for me, it was definitely a 2 thumbs up. That is a must. If you're going to go to Disney, I feel that is an absolute must. So let's see. Height requirements. Do you remember the height requirements? See, now I'm beyond that stage because my youngest is 13 and 5'4", so I don't have to worry about it. But I know you have Eleanor, right? And you had to do. I
have them all in a spreadsheet, and I don't remember. I want to say it's probably like 36. Because I know 32 inches is the first height requirement because we hit that, and that gets you on Alien Swirling Saucers and Tomorrowland Speedway. Okay. Then after that, I think it's 35 for like Barnstormer and maybe Splash Mountain.
So Barnstormer is still one of my favorites, right? I just turned 48. Barnstormer is still, I think, one of the GOAT rides.
A couple of inches too short for that one. So
that's a shame because I know she would have absolutely loved it. So
I think she really would have liked it, but yeah.
You have to get back before she turns 3 because then she's still free, right? You still get that freebie in it.
And that's part of one of the main decisions other than the fact that I wasn't going to go that much longer without a Disney trip, but was like, hey, we're not paying for her, so why not go?
So before I jump into this next segment of HTM highlights, how long had it been since you've been to Disney World?
May 2019. My last Disney trip, I was 7 months pregnant with her.
Oh, wow. So May 2019, you go through, you have the baby, and then you're probably thinking, okay, I've had the baby, we got a stroller, I'm ready to go to Disney, and then pandemic, and they shut everything down.
We knew, because we had actually had annual passes, and we let them expire because it was like, we're probably not going to go her first year of life just because, like, with an infant, there were tons of people there, and God bless them, and more power to them, because it was just like, we struggled just to make it to the mall and remember everything we needed. So we just... I completely lost my train of thought. So we knew we weren't going to go the first year of her life, but then it was like, oh, okay. So, we'll probably go, it was going to be early 2021. But then when the time came to book, we were in the middle of a pandemic and we were like, I don't know if I want to book yet. Like, I don't know what's going to go on. And so we kind of pushed it off. And then I think we booked this trip maybe like 7 months out, which for us is really last minute.
Oh, wow. So that's not bad. So Josiah, to kind of get your thing, 40 inches. Yeah, she pretty much can ride everything. And who knows, because I think you're coming in October. She may actually grow 2 inches, but it'd actually be good to go with everything. Isla seems to be growing like a weed. So HTM highlights. One of the things I wanted to talk about before we get to your piece, because you just mentioned you booked 7 months out. bookings are going through the roof, like crazy, almost pre-pandemic numbers for anything that's available. Places are starting to see sellouts. They're getting to that 100% occupancy. They're also seeing prices reach pre-pandemic and even going beyond pre-pandemic prices and all that stuff. So when you book, can you just talk about the process? Because I know you mentioned you're a Disney Vacation Club member.
Yes.
So your process may be a little bit different, but how difficult, what issues did you have? Did you have many issues? Did you have somebody that helped walk you through the process? Did you even need somebody?
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I have one too. I have a dog too. Because and I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there, Felicity. Hopefully you don't get upset for me saying this, but if anybody needs some Disney help booking, Felicity Barnes, you can find her on Facebook. You might want to reach out to her because she can probably hook you up. Not necessarily hook you up, but hook you up to make the process a lot easier from her standpoint. She's a certified Disney travel agent, I believe. So Felicity, if you want to throw some info out there to get people moving your way, feel free to do so. And I'll go ahead and blast it on the screen. But Annie, do you mind just telling us a little bit about your process of booking and everything going forward?
So, like I said, we knew we probably weren't going to go in 2020 just because we knew that we have an infant and didn't really want to deal with that. So originally, like back when we first, like before Eleanor was even born, I was thinking kind of spring 2021 because I really like the Flower and Garden Festival. It's generally a slower time. But because we are Vacation Club members, we can use points to book our stay. And we can book 11 months out at our home resort and 7 months out everywhere else.
Do you mind if I ask you one quick question? What's your home resort?
Polynesian.
Okay. Oh, that's a nice one. That's a nice one.
Disney's Polynesian Village Resort. But 11 months out put us at June 2020 to book. And of course, we're deep in everything shut down. And I looked at you, I was like, do you even want to book it right now? Do we want to kind of wait and see where this goes? And so we decided we were going to wait. Obviously, October is Magic Kingdom's 50th anniversary. It's the 50th birthday of Disney World. So I wouldn't have minded hitting that, but I know I didn't want to be anywhere around October 1st because things were going to be a madhouse. And then we're like, all right, well, what about December? Because Christmas is also a really good time. And so we kind of said, all right, well, let's wait and do then. But then I started thinking about it. And I'm like, I really don't want to wait like 2 whole years to go back to Disney. And really the catalyst was we knew we probably wanted to take my parents with us just to have some extra help with the toddler. And so my mom's best friend said, hey, I've got DVC points that we're not going to use. I'll sell them to you, for a really good price, but you have to use them before June. So I was like, okay, well, we were looking at going in May anyway. So I got on, and there was one thing Disney has. Normally you can borrow next year's points, but they actually put a limit that you could only borrow 50%. So we did have to knock a night off of our trip because of that, or staying on site. We ended up staying at a Marriott in Flamingo Crossings, I think the first night. Perfectly adequate hotel. So there was that. And then my mom was thinking of all these places, and she's looking online and she's like, oh, I've got this many points. I can stay here. I can stay here. And I went onto the DVC site and I was like, yeah, this is booked. This is booked. This is booked. This is booked. So really, I think our choices were staying at the Polynesian, which we would have, but their monorail station is currently under construction. Well, the whole resort's under construction. But you can't ride the monorail from there. And I was like, oh, it's kind of like one of the main reasons I stay there. Bay Lake Tower, which is the DVC portion of the Contemporary Resort, which was really actually kind of my first choice because you can actually walk to Magic Kingdom from there. So when you've got a little kid in a stroller, you just can't beat, just being able to walk out the door and walk to the park, and then for nap time, put them in the stroller and walk back to the resort. And I think like maybe Saratoga Springs, and Joe and I had stayed there previously and really did not like it. So.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like your process actually was not as complicated as some people may be having right now trying to get in there, because I know they're constantly opening, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Being in Florida and just the way the CDC made the announcement. and Florida has kind of been opening as we go through. So I want to kind of drift into the next little piece before we really just start digging deeper into your trip. And it's kind of, in your opinion, usually I put out a question poll, but I wanted to focus just on you for this one in your opinion. So in your opinion, is Disney doing it right? You just spent a week there. Do you feel Disney is doing it right with regard to how they're handling everything in this pandemic still?
I think so. I mean, I know a lot of people had said before we even got there that, they felt the safest there. They've got the markings everywhere. They've got plexiglass dividers in the lines. They had started sort of relaxing. So like we rode It's a Small World and we were in a boat with other people. We were very lucky that almost all of us were fully vaccinated by the time we went. So we didn't really have to worry about that as much. But the cast members were really good about making sure people had their masks, had them up over their nose. They didn't have to get nasty about it. They've got everything's kind of really well marked as far as like where you enter, where you exit. So yeah, I think they're doing a good job. But I also, yeah. To me, Disney can do no wrong. So
well, I was just about to say that. I feel that, not trying to get political with anything, but I feel no matter your affiliation, whether you believe mask or no, Disney, it just seems like people don't care. They want to go to Disney. They're going to put on a mask. Disney said put on a mask. They're going to put on a mask. Because if they don't, I think you saw the video when they took Homeboy, they trespassed him off of Disney property, right? Nobody wants to be trespassed off Disney property.
And I like he was all upset about it. And I was like, what did you think was going to happen here?
Yeah, I feel Disney's the only place on earth you could be super anti-mask, right? And you're going to put one on because you want to ride those rides. So
yeah, apparently while I was riding Smuggler's Run with my mom, Joe said he actually did see someone get kicked out of the park. And it wasn't over the mask, but it was something about basically, he said all he heard was the grown man say, "You're ruining my vacation." And the cast member was like, "We are not trying to ruin your vacation, but if you don't come down, we are going to have to ask you to leave." And she was like, and then two very nicely dressed security people showed up.
Oh, wow. So let me go ahead and throw this up. So my sister's asking, what video is this? If you look up on YouTube, there was a gentleman, I think it was actually at Disney Springs. They were getting ready to go to a restaurant, and it was when still the restrictions were pretty heavy duty. He took off his mask, and he was asked to put his mask back on by several cast members, and he didn't. So they called security. And then security finally called the police department, and the police department came and told him that he was being trespassed by Disney, and now he had to go to jail. And he goes, "Can I put my mask on now?" And the cop goes, "It's too late for that now, but you're going to have to put it back on when we go to book you." So he was ready to put it back on, and he complained about them ruining his vacation by requiring him to put on a mask and stuff like that. But when we went in Christmas, we really didn't see a lot of people complaining. There's just, I guess it literally is a magic place that you could be so anti-mask, but you're going to put that mask on because you want to be at Disney World.
We had one guy we rode Kali River Rapids, and he, like, as soon as he pulled away from the station, he pulled his mask down, and his wife told him to put it back on. And he was like, "I can't." He's like, "I have a medical condition, and legally you can't ask me about that." And he was really the only one. And I'm sitting there like looking around at all the cameras. And I'm like, you really think Disney doesn't know what you're doing?
He's like, "I haven't met." And they'll be like, "Yeah, you could explain that as we escort you out the park."
They didn't say anything. And he pulled it back up by the time we got back. So I was like, but he was the only person we saw that like had even remotely. Everyone else, as soon as a cast member said something, they'd pull it back up. And
so one more thing, kind of from an in your opinion aspect, was there anything as far as just the way Disney was doing things that you felt ruined your trip? Because we just talked about some people saying, "Oh, that you're ruining my trip." Do you feel anything, and I don't want to say ruined, but was anything just so different that you went, "Oh man, this just doesn't feel the same. I can't wait to come back when things are back to normal"?
Yeah. So right now, Disney has a policy in place where you actually have to make a reservation for what park you want to go to ahead of time. And then you cannot park hop until after 2 p.m. And that was really the only thing that, because I'm so used to being able to just kind of like wake up that morning and be like, "Oh, hey, we want to go here." And there were a couple times where I think about like, "Oh, I meant to go back to this shop," and that was really the only kind of downside, is I didn't have that freedom to just like pop into Magic Kingdom, ride Space Mountain, and then go over to Epcot. It was one of those. I actually, my last day, I was lusting after this one backpack I'd seen, and I'd only seen it in Magic Kingdom. I'm like, and I can't even go back.
So I got to ask, what kind of backpack was it?
It's one of the lounge flies, but it was their canvas backpack, and it's like a denim with Mickey balloons on it. Apparently it came out last year, and I saw it in the Emporium, and I didn't buy it, and now I'm really regretting it. And I was like, oh. And it's sold out online.
We just recently had a Disney backpack break on us, but we got it. I want to say my daughter was so young. We probably had this thing for 15, 16 years. So of course, I go to Orlando. My brother's in Orlando for work. We go to downtown Disney, and I'm like, let me run into the store and see if we can find it. And of course, you're not going to find it, right? They only have these special ones at the park. And that was just such a letdown. But the cool thing is that it lasted forever. I mean, it was probably 15 years. It lasted. So I hope you eventually find that backpack, because if
anyone's in Disney World and sees the Mickey Balloon Loungefly, like, I'll Venmo you.
So you know what? My daughter is coming down to visit, but she's going to Epcot though. So I don't know if it'll be available at Epcot, but I'll tell her to keep an eye out for it when she goes.
Yeah, I know. I asked in the shops in Animal Kingdom, and because I saw it in the Emporium, and then I asked in Animal Kingdom, and they said World of Disney. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going all the way back to Disney Springs. So.
Oh man. Okay. So that's good to know. That is good to know. So I want to jump into just kind of your overall trip, really from beginning to end. So let's start at the beginning. You do have a toddler, and you drove from North Carolina, right? So before you even got a chance to mask with Mickey, what was that trip like? Going down, and was it everybody? Because you said your parents went with you down.
My parents and then my dad's best friend.
Did everybody go together in the same car, or were you guys in different cars?
No. So Craig flew. He flew down and flew back separately. My parents and I drove. So it was me and Joe and Eleanor in the truck, and then my parents in their car. So I actually left work early around, I think, 2:00. Picked up Eleanor from daycare, because it would have been right as she was finishing her nap. Came home, kind of did the last minute, like shove everything in the truck. And then we drove to Walterboro, South Carolina. And I'd already kind of I'm an obsessive planner. So I had already pinpointed where. And so that was about 3.5 hours into the trip. So it was right at dinner time. And we actually stopped at a Cracker Barrel, because I was like, well, this way Eleanor can get out. She can wander around. We'll sit, we'll have a meal. It'll give her a break. The theme that kind of carried throughout the trip is I did not think about the fact that Eleanor does not have the greatest patience. So we're all used to, okay, you order and then you have to wait for your food. That's fine. But in her mind, I'm in my high chair. Why are you not feeding me yet?
You. Yeah.
And it took a while there. So that was kind of so we had dinner, got back in the car, changed her to pajamas, put her back in her car seat. So she conked out, drove to the south side of Jacksonville, and we had a hotel there for the night. So we checked in, which that was, so we walk in, I've got a sleeping toddler on my shoulder, my overnight bag, my purse. And we walk in, we're reservation for Middelberg. And she's like, I'm not seeing anything.
Oh Lord, of course.
And the thing is, if any of y'all have noticed my last name, it's not spelled the way you think it is. It's Dutch, so it's Middelberg. So of course, when I say I'm checking in for Middelberg, I immediately spell it, because that is just my life now. I say, you're checking in for Middelberg, Middel. So we go through this, and she's like, oh, I don't see it. Could it be under another name? And I was like, no, it's under Middelberg. And she's like, well, are you at the right hotel? I was like, I just checked the confirmation. She's like, well, do you have the confirmation number? So I have to hand off the sleeping toddler, put down the suitcase, go into my purse to find my phone to pull up the confirmation. And she pulls it up. She's like, oh, that's why I couldn't find it. It's spelled funny. I'm like,
oh Lord, after you just spelled it, right?
And it's midnight. I'm exhausted. So we spent the night there.
Next time, you just need to let us know. You drive a little bit farther. We're right in St. Augustine, and you could just stay at the Hotel Rivera, right? We could have had everything set up for you.
Yeah.
Next time, you can just stay at Hotel Rivera, Annie. Yeah.
So, but then the next morning, it was only a 2.5 hour drive to get to Disney. So, we got up, got breakfast, Eleanor slept a little bit in the car on the way there. And so then we got to Epcot. We did Living with the Land.
Epcot was your first?
Epcot was the first park, mainly because it didn't open until 11. And so I figured the fact that we were going to be driving in that morning, I didn't want to get there like 2 hours after park opening and have ridiculously long lines. So
I want to ask you this. You just said you got to Epcot first. What was Eleanor's reaction to like seeing all this for the first time?
To be honest, she really just wanted to climb on all the railings, like all the little railings around the planners. She would literally like the last day we were in Epcot, she literally spent 30 minutes just like climbing up and looking at the lagoon, and then she climbed down and she'd run 4 feet and she'd climb up again and look at the lagoon, and then she jumped up. Like that's really all she wanted to do.
So it's like giving her the coolest Christmas gift, and all she wants to do is play with the box, right? So that
did. There's one day in Animal Kingdom. So in Animal Kingdom, the characters come by on boats, and she'd kind of get in and wave to Mickey. But yeah, no, she really the only probably 2 rides she really reacted on. It's a Small World. She did like actually start pointing and kind of looking around at all the dolls. And then the teacups, the first time around, she giggled. And then I was like, do you want to ride it again? And she was like, yeah. So we got in line again and we spun again. And that one, she was kind of like,
oh man, the teacups. I'm not a big fan of the teacups. So I want to pocket into Epcot. You mentioned you hadn't been in a while. Had you ridden the Elsa ride? I can't remember what it's called.
Frozen
Have you ridden
After.
that before? Frozen
Yes.
Ever. So you had
I
done
actually
it
have a
before?
really hysterical ride photo because I'd ridden it back when it was Maelstrom, and we were riding it again. Yeah, we were riding it when it was Frozen Ever After, and I forgot about the dip, and I realized it was going to get wet, and I didn't want to. So the picture of me as me, like, I'm like, looks like I don't want to be anywhere on the ride. I was like, I just want to get wet.
So did Eleanor like recognize the characters on the Frozen Ever After and all that kind of stuff?
Not really, because she's not quite in the watching movies stage yet. So like, we can watch about half of an episode of Elena of Avalor. She has watched the first 10 minutes of Frozen, but she doesn't really know them yet. Like, just because she's not at the point where.
All right. So we do have a quick little question here. This is my debate. Do I start the trip with Magic Kingdom or another park first? First day is on the weekend. I know MK is the busiest on the weekend. So Annie, what is your take on that? And if Felicity wants to throw in on that too. So Al, you guys are the resident Disney experts. So what do you think, Annie?
I generally recommend not starting on Magic Kingdom, especially if you've got small kids, just because there's so much for them there that from what I've heard, and even what I found, is it's hard to then compare the other parks to it. Because like you go from Magic Kingdom that's got a ride around every corner to Animal Kingdom where there are no rides when you first walk in, and it's kind of like, okay, well, why are we here? So, and I always like to do it kind of in the middle of the week because the crowds do drop down a little bit. So we did, Magic Kingdom was our second day, so it was Sunday. And that was just because I had that emotional, I wanted my child to see the castle and all that.
That is great. So Felicity said she took her girls to Epcot first. They had to leave and go to Magic Kingdom because they did not believe they were at Disney. So now it's our first and last day. Oh, okay. So you go at the beginning and you kind of sandwich it at the end. So I'm gonna be honest, and I gotta admit this, and I don't know if there's other dads that can relate to this. To me, that's not something I thought about, right? It's so irrelevant to me. I'm just like, hey, we're here. We got the kids here. I think honestly, the moms pay better attention to that, because I'm sure if my wife was on, she would probably pay better attention to that. But I want to say that the first park we went to when Sadie was little, I think Sadie was about 2 years old, was probably Magic Kingdom. And I think that was the reason we wanted her to see the castle and realize she was at Disney World. So I think we went there first. Magic Kingdom, I absolutely love Magic Kingdom. I can go there if we're there for a week. I can go there every day.
It's Joe's favorite park, so we always end up hitting it earlier because he's always like, when are we going to Magic Kingdom?
So that she mentions the thoughts of my daughter the first time she saw it. We have a picture. We had her reenact the picture several times when we've gone back. It's true. It really was a magical moment. I think it gave us all goosebumps that first time. Well, the first time I saw it, I was in my 20s. I hadn't. So I want to go ahead and say that we hated the kids that went to Disney World all the time because we didn't go. We're like, you guys think you're so cool. It's not all that great. And then, of course, I didn't go until I want to say I was like 21, 22, maybe the first time I went to Disney World. And I felt the magic. And now I'm addicted. I absolutely love it. So here's my mom. The first time she went, she saw it through her granddaughter's eyes, which is my daughter, that first experience. And it's true. There is something special about it. Do you remember your first experience, Annie, going to Disney World?
I was actually going to say, so my parents didn't go until they were in their 30s because I actually, they won a trip and I was an infant. So they actually left me at home and went and fell in love. And then, and
so
then
your mom is a princess and your dad is a prince. And
that's so but that's the so they went that first time and stayed in some like little podunk hotel in the main gate area, and they were like, it was really seedy. But my mom talks about when they would ride the monorail, they'd see the Grand Floridian, and she's like, one day I want to have enough money to stay there. And then a couple of years later, the radio station she worked for, they had a promotional trip, and she was talking to one of the people, and they were like, oh yeah, you should come. And mom's like, well, where are you putting everyone up? He's like, I think it's the Grand Floridian. So she said she went to her boss's office and like got down on her knees and was like, please send me on this trip and I won't ask you for anything. So that was my first trip. I was 3. I don't remember any of it. The main story we have from that trip is I had really bad ear infections. And so they put me on antibiotics. And when you give small children antibiotics, their stomachs get upset. And my mom said that she had gone off and my dad was watching the stage show with me on his shoulders. And she walks up and she notices everyone like laughing and pointing because I had filled my diaper and it was coming up out of the shorts.
Oh my God. That is
and
awesome.
She was like, she was like, do I acknowledge that I know that?
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. That is such a great story. But
so I don't have many, we have stories, so I feel like I remember, but I really don't have.
Well, I remember taking each one of my kids except for my youngest, and she never lets me forget, right? And it's because when I was at ECU, I used to go to Disney for the CP college program. So I would go down and do orientation stuff for Disney, and I remember I took each of my kids anytime I went down. The last one I did was the best one. They wanted me to do 2 sessions. So my son Pablo and I were there for like 6 days. So we were there for 6 days. They put us up at the Yacht and Beach Club. So we're right there. And then also there were some ECU students that were working there. So, I mean, I don't think we had to pay or worry about anything. They were getting us fast passes for rides. We were playing putt. I mean, we lived it up. We did the water parks because I literally had 4 sessions. Each session was about an hour and a half on each day. So we'd go to the park, I'd go do a session, then we'd go back to the park at the end. And we had extra magic hours. And it was the best. And then of course, a couple of years after that, I leave ECU, right? So that was the end of that. My youngest daughter never lets me forget. But I want to ask you this. So you started with Epcot. What was your next park? Where was the next place you went? Was it Magic Kingdom?
Yeah, we went from Epcot our first day, and we did not hop at all that day. I think just because we were tired and because dinner was off site. So we kind of did the park, went back, regrouped, and then went to dinner at Shula's Steakhouse at the Dolphin Resort. So then the next day was Magic Kingdom. And that was, I wanted that, first my daughter seeing the castle. She didn't care.
Oh, wow.
Did not really she looked at it and then she kind of looked at me like, okay, like, what am I looking at here? Now I teared up a little bit because we had, so our big thing was we got to the parks at opening every morning. And that is like the one tip I would say, especially while they're not doing fast passes right now, like get there at rope drop so that you can ride as much as you can without a huge wait. Because by 2-3 hours past park opening, some of the rides were at 45 minutes. But we
right,
went
so
into.
I'm gonna laugh. I gotta laugh because to me that doesn't even seem that long.
I know
At times I've been there where you're waiting like 2 hours to get on some of these rides. So, but no, 45 minutes right now is
long. And when you've got kids, like you don't really want to have to entertain them for that long. But so we had gone into the Emporium, and one of the cast members came up and she's like, "Have you guys seen Mickey yet?" And I said, "No." She's like, "Well, they're about to come out to the train station." So we went out and they were up on the train station. It was Mickey and Minnie and Pluto, and Eleanor actually kind of like reacted to that. And that's what got me, was my, her seeing Mickey Mouse like live and in the flesh for the first time.
Okay. While you guys were there, and I haven't even asked you, so you guys are masking up. And I don't even remember, and we went, does Disney have like a relaxation area where you could take your mask down just to take it down?
They have relaxation stations. A lot of times it's like some of their outdoor restaurants or like an indoor attraction they're not utilizing. We actually didn't use them just because we were pretty good. We would kind of have an early lunch. So about the time that it was getting really hot, we would go have lunch. And of course you can take it down while you're at your table. So about the time it was getting to be too much, we'd stop and you could take it down as long as you were actively eating or drinking. So like we'd get a Mickey bar and pull over somewhere, and then we could like pull the mask down and eat that. And Eleanor loved Mickey bars. It got to the point that like everyone had to eat them behind her because we ate them where she could see you. It was like, ma.
So you're talking about the Mickey Mouse ice cream sandwich.
The one on the stick,
okay. So
the Dairy Queen Dilly bar. I'm unpopular opinion here. I don't like Mickey bars. Everyone else in my family does.
Well, I want to say that I think that's the most popular selling item that they have. They sell more of those than any other food item at the Disney World.
I'm sure people swear by them. Give me a Dole Whip any day.
Oh, okay. So Dole Whip, my brother, he made a point when right after lunch. So we're at Disney Springs. He's like, "Hey, we have to go to the marketplace, the marketplace snacks, because I got to get a Dole Whip." He just had to. It was like nothing else matters at that point. Had to get a Dole Whip. My mom, and I think she's still on. At any part, she's like, "Hey, is this the part we can get Dole Whip?" And I was like, "Nah, Ma, we got it at Magic Kingdom." And she's like, "Oh, they need to have it at every park. I just love the Dole Whip."
Do now though, so good news for her. You can now get it at every park. Yeah. Maybe not Hollywood Studios, but I do know that Epcot and Animal Kingdom, you can get it. Because it's funny, it's my favorite snack, and somehow we just never made it there. So I didn't get one until our last day at Animal Kingdom.
Oh, at least you got one. So I want to ask you this. We'll rewind for a second. Epcot, you said you did that first. Give me maybe two have-tos when you're at Epcot.
So if you've got older kids, Test Track. It is the fastest ride on Disney property at 64.8 miles an hour. They round it up.
Is it faster than Rock and Roller Coaster?
It is. So Rock and Roller Coaster, it's just the acceleration, but you only get up, I think, to like 60. Test Track, you get to 65. So it is actually the fastest attraction on property. Test Track is generally a must do. Obviously with Eleanor, we just didn't mess with it. So
that'd be great, right? Yeah, have your 2-year-old.
They probably really like it. she's a little adrenaline junkie. And then for me, I love Living with the Land. A lot of people think it's lame because it's just like a little boat ride through the greenhouses, but it's so relaxing and so much fun stuff to look at. We joked that Eleanor probably got back to daycare and told everyone that Disney was nothing but boat rides. Because you got to think about Living with the Land, It's a Small World, Grand Fiesta Tour, like Frozen Ever After. Like everything's a boat ride.
That is true. Everything is a boat ride. All right, so let's go ahead and shift now to Magic Kingdom. 2 musts. What are your 2 must or have tos?
So for me, Big Thunder Mountain. That was the first ride that I literally kind of shoved the stroller and go to my parents. And I'm like, here, watch Eleanor for a minute. And Joe and I went and rode Big Thunder. Well,
that's a positive that your parents went, right? Because then it gave you and Joe a chance
I told them, I told them while we were there, I was like, we could not have done it without them. Just to have 2 extra sets of eyes and pairs of hands to help entertain her and keep an eye on her and like swap off so we could do things. We actually one night met friends of ours at Disney Springs and stayed so late that the restaurant kicked us out, and then stayed so late talking that Disney Springs security kicked us out. So
that is
very
awesome.
nicely.
I
did feel bad for the restaurant because like the waitress kept coming over and like trying to take our empties, and we're sitting there drinking, and she's like, "Y'all back a house." I'm like, "I know, I'm sorry, we'll leave, I promise."
So she didn't do the, hey, you don't gotta go home, but you needs to get up out of here, right? So,
so many words. Oh, hey, it's my mom.
So that's your mom. So,
Yeah.
Hey, Mrs. Snodgrass, is good to I guess see you on. So, how about the third part? What was the third part that you hit up?
That was Hollywood Studios.
Okay.
So, like I said, my must do. I'm actually going to say Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run edged out Rise of the Resistance for me.
You think? See, I wasn't. Now Han Solo's my dude, right? I love Han Solo and the whole idea of the Smuggler's Run, but I actually like Rise of Resistance more. And maybe it's because it was just the whole storytelling.
Maybe it's just because I like the interactiveness of it. Like my mom and I wrote it, and we were engineers, which was kind of a crappy experience because you're like in the back and you're trying like one eye on the buttons and one eye on what's happening. Oh, hey, that's Alyssa. That's my friend that we shut down Disney Springs with.
Nice.
She and her husband got married the same year that Joe and I did. And they got married. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alyssa. I think they ended up getting married at the Swan and Dolphin because neither one of us could afford the Disney wedding.
But still, that's pretty nice. That's not bad. So you said the Smuggler's
somewhere
Run.
else. So Smuggler's Run, just because the second time I went with Joe, we got it to ourselves, and so I got to be the pilot that like made the jump to light speed.
Okay.
And that I don't care, like even if you just barely tolerate Star Wars, like being able to pull that lever and jump to light speed was really cool.
Well, I think even if you don't like Star Wars, once you walk into that area of the park, that's a game over moment. Because you actually feel you are no longer on planet Earth.
Completely immersive.
You feel no longer on planet Earth. They do a good job of kind of cutting off the rest of the park and that walkway. It is unbelievable. The feeling I got. I literally felt that I was in a galaxy far, far away. I literally felt that way. It was such a cool feeling.
But that I also Paradise Cove. That's sorry. I promise I read your report. So yeah, and then I love Rock and Roller Coaster.
Okay.
So just I have a very like level of roller coaster I will ride. Rock and Roller Coaster is a pretty solid. Yeah, I'm gonna ride that one every time. I don't like
will go along
straight
with
up
that.
and straight down.
Yes, I love that. So I got to ask you this: did you try that space milk?
No.
Okay, be thankful. Space milk is yak. That is one of the few things that I will say this about Disney. They usually do things at such a high level. It's amazing. So anybody who's considering going, I would avoid the space milk. If you just feel you want to truly try every Disney experience you can, try the space milk. We got a couple and tried it. I thought it was yak. I thought it was just awful.
I feel like a lot of the like specialty snacks and drinks in that area like have gotten some like some people are like, oh my god, it's amazing, but there's also been a lot of like, no, that was gross.
Yeah. Also the chicken block with the gravy. So we ate at one of the restaurants in the Star Wars area and wasn't that impressed with that either. So when you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, I guess this is what space food looks like. And I guess maybe this is what space food is supposed to taste like. If this is what it's supposed to taste like, I'm going to be one skinny dude in Space World.
We had lunch at Docking Bay 7, which is one of the quick services there. And I had
we may have eaten at the same place.
Yeah,
Kat,
it was,
is that what we ate? My wife may not be back in the house. I know she was
that probably, or because it's like their Oga's Cantina and like the Ronto wrap place. I had a salad. It was good. My only complaint was it was like a bunch of different textures. So it's like I'd eat a mandarin orange and then I'd get a sunflower seed and just the complete change. It was a little weird.
All right, good. So now let's go. So the last part left is Animal Kingdom. What are your 2 thoughts on must-dos in Animal Kingdom?
Expedition Everest, all day, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, love Expedition Everest. It was really fun. I got to ride that next to Craig, and of course he had never been. He didn't do like a whole lot of research on it, so we pull up to where the track splits, and he's kind of like, "What happens now?"
And how about a second must do on an Animal Kingdom?
Okay, so I actually really loved Primeval Whirl, and I'm very heartbroken that they closed it because that was my second must do. Like, I would use a fast pass for that. My parents are like, "Really? You wasted our fast pass on this?" I was like, "I'm the one booking it, so you got to ride it." I do like the safari is kind of the quintessential Animal Kingdom attraction. We got like 5 minutes into that, and Eleanor looks at me and starts signing all done. And I was like, "Oh no, baby girl, we're not done. You have to." And she's like, every time we stopped, she's like, "No, I'm sorry."
Oh man, that's a trip. That is a trip. So, just to get your thoughts as I was going to say a new mom, but you're not so new as a mom anymore. Your daughter's, getting into that 2-year-old stage. So, what advice would you just give somebody who is looking at taking the trip down to Disney World? Still right now, there are still some restrictions with masking and stuff like that. Maybe what are some best practices or advice you would have that you think they should look at just doing to make their trip maybe a little bit better?
So like I said, for me, hitting the parks, we pretty much consistently got to the parks 30 to 45 minutes before the scheduled opening time. And with the exception of Hollywood Studios, they were already open and you could go in. Hollywood Studios, we had to sit and wait for them to open the parking lot. But you get a really close parking space when you get there that early. So for us getting there really early, because one, it's not as hot. It's, you get a decent parking space and you can hit most of the major rides with minimal waits. Because I think Wednesday, my mom hopped back over to Hollywood Studios. She met my dad and Craig there, and everything was like a 45, 55, 60-minute wait.
Okay.
So we did not get to ride Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway because by the time we circled back to it, it was a 45-minute wait and it was all out in the sun. Oh, Flight of Passage. I can't believe I forgot that. Yeah. But that's actually, we waited an hour for that. And my dad was not happy because he had to watch Eleanor the whole hour and she was in a mood.
I can imagine, right? When it was time for that.
Flight of Passage for me is like an instant zen. Like as soon as that screen lifts up, I'm just totally relaxed and in my happy place.
No. Okay. I get that. So you and that. So get there early.
Yeah, get there early. For
hit
us,
the rides you definitely want to hit as soon as you can.
First thing. Okay. Yeah, and until if they bring back Fast Pass, and I did kind of miss that because when you could schedule I know a lot of people don't like having to like schedule your day, but for us it was really nice because if I woke up and just wasn't feeling it, I'm like, our first Fast Pass is at 11. We don't have to get there. We'll be able to ride it. For us also making sure we had downtime both in the middle of the day and the middle of the week. So we had Wednesday was our no park day. So we had breakfast at Topolino's Terrace at the Riviera Resort. It was a character meal. Fabulous food.
How is the Riviera Resort? I've never been. You're talking about the Disney Riviera, right?
Yeah. So I'll admit, I was skeptical because like just all the pictures, nothing about it appealed to me. I'm like, it just looks like another convention hotel. And then we went there and it is so pretty and so well done. And you've got the Skyliner right there. You can see from breakfast, you can see 3 out of the 4 parks. It was, I almost had Joe convinced to buy points there. Like we were.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we actually went and like did the room tour to see how much it would be to add on. And he almost had him.
Almost had. All right. So,
but we did but that was our, like, so we did a breakfast, but then we went back to the hotel, like did some pool time, just kind of relaxed. And it was nice just to sort of, kick back, not have to worry about getting everywhere super early. No, that is, it's Artist Point in Wilderness Lodge is the Snow White meal that you can actually see the Evil Queen at the end. This was Mickey, Minnie, Donald, and Daisy. So
Yeah, another one of my recommendations, if you can go to a character breakfast, I highly recommend it. I know my sister came with us a couple of times when we were able to get into, gosh, what is it? In the castle for breakfast.
Cinderella's Royal Table.
Yes. So one year we went and we actually got in for my birthday, and that was the coolest thing ever. And what's the funny thing is, so all the princesses are coming by asking where the birthday boy is, and they're looking at my son and the kids. And I was like, no, it's me.
It's me.
My birthday. Yeah, we're here for me.
My 18th birthday dinner was at 1900 Park Fair, which is Cinderella, the stepsisters, Prince Charming. So
if that's one of, I think, a must if you can do that. You definitely want to try and get into one of those.
I actually really liked the way they're doing it now because of COVID and everything. They don't come to your table. They just sort of like come around and stand like 5 feet away and wave and interact and like move on. And I kind of prefer that because I don't know if they like sit there and watch, but my luck is as soon as I put a big bite of something, like a character pops up at the table. So I'm like,
Yeah. No.
So I kind of prefer the distance, and especially because we weren't sure how Eleanor was going to take characters, because she's 2.5 feet tall, and then you've got this 5 foot tall mouse. So it's kind of nice that this was kind of a way to ease her in.
Yeah, my kids weren't fond of the big heads, they called them. They were like, oh, don't like the big heads. So thank you so much for kind of giving us your take on kind of your trip. I do want to ask this because we talked a lot about the good stuff. Was there anything that you just thought that wasn't done well?
So like I said, I was kind of frustrated with the having to pick your park in advance and then being stuck going to that park for 4 or 5 hours because you couldn't hop until the afternoon. That's oh no, trust me, you can ask my parents. They're still mad about waiting like an hour to see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back in the 90s, and I wanted nothing to do with them.
That's funny.
So yeah, the park reservations and not being able to hop until after 2 was a little frustrating.
Okay.
And then there were a couple of times where the stores had like 8 entrances and 7 of them were exit only, and you're like, just want to go in, like just tell me where to go in.
All right. So before we wrap up this evening, I want to actually put some of your Disney knowledge to the test, and these are some random type trivia things just to see if you know. So can you tell me what ride is at every Disney park in the world?
I want to say it's a Small World.
Oh no, it's Dumbo.
Dumbo, okay. I couldn't remember. I know It's a Small World is in a bunch of them, but
so if this makes you feel better, I thought I knew it right away. I was like, oh yeah, it's a Small World, gotta be. And they're like, yeah, no, it's Dumbo. And I was like, oh, who would have known it was Dumbo? Let's see if this just random thing. If you know this, I will bow down because this is good. So can you tell me the name of the secret tunnel located beneath Disney's Magic Kingdom? No. The name of the tunnels, what they call them underneath Magic Kingdom?
The utility corridors.
Yes, that's crazy. I did not know that's what they were called. So I got a tour of Epcot, and I was so I didn't want to go on the tour. So when I was doing the college program as oriented, they were like, oh, we want to show you. And I said, no, I don't want to go on the tour. And they were like, why? I said, because this is magic, and I don't want to know how the magic works. Right? I just don't want to know how the magic works. It just works. I did not realize that's what I bow down to you because I just thought that was so cool that's what they call it, the utility corridors.
Magic Kingdom used to offer it was only recently it was like a behind the scenes kitchen tour where you actually got to see like the food facilities, and they talked about like mass producing all the food, and like the hospitality geek in me really wanted to take that tour.
I think it's like Felicity's throwing in on it too, man. So which Disney theme park opened first?
Talking about Disney World or just like worldwide?
Worldwide.
Oh, Disneyland in Anaheim in 1955.
Go ahead. That's all. Yep, that is right. That is correct. I look at here's another tidbit did not know. She talked about how foul they smell. She used them for work when she worked at Magic Kingdom, so that's good to know. Let's see. My sister thought Smart World too. She was a CP, or a matter of fact, she's been in there. Josiah, I believe I helped Josiah move to when she started the college program. So I think I helped her drive down just when I had started at ECU. So we talked about the favorite food is the Mickey shaped ice cream head. So let's see.
The tallest attraction is Expedition Everest at 199.5 feet.
Oh, okay? So you answered the next question without even me asking the question. So
do you know why it capped out at 199.5 feet?
No, I don't.
Because Florida law dictates anything 200 feet or higher requires a red blinking light for aviation.
So I did not realize that.
So Tower of Terror used to be the tallest, and it was 199 feet. And then when they built Everest, they added 6 inches, but they won't ever build anything taller because you can't put a red light on it.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Now, let's see. How about this one? So how tall is Magic Kingdom's Christmas tree?
Big. I'm horrible with measurements. You can ask my engineering husband. He hates it because I'm like, I need something this big. He's like, I need units. I'm like,
we're like this many units, right?
Yeah, like I don't know, 60 feet.
Oh, that's close. 65 feet. That's very good. Which character flies over Magic Kingdom every night?
Tinkerbell.
Tinkerbell, that is correct.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite.
So when Joe and I got married, they were transitioning the fireworks shows. They used to have wishes, and it ended a couple weeks before we got married. And my dad and I actually did this crazy. We left Friday after work, drove through the night, got to Magic Kingdom at 10 in the morning, did Magic Kingdom, watched one of the last shows of Wishes, and then came back Sunday. So I didn't have to take off any time off.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great story.
But so when they debuted Happily Ever After, I was on my honeymoon, and that was the first time I'd seen it. And the first time we saw it, it was a torrential downpour. So it was not the greatest showing because, we were watching the fireworks. It was cool, and I liked the music, but I was getting poured on. So we went back a couple nights later and watched it. And we're a little bit farther back, so we got the whole, the projections on the castle and the fireworks. And there's this whole big thing about hey, is Tinkerbell going to fly? Because in Wishes, she opened the show. Well, she doesn't come out so much later in Happily Ever After. And so I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like, God, is Tinkerbell going to fly? And she, and they do the whole, you can fly. And she lights up, and I lost it and just started sobbing and was still sobbing at the end of the fireworks. And Joe's like, Annie, people are looking at us. Can you pull it together, please?
Well, I still get so heartbroken at the idea of Wishes, right? I remember the first time I saw Wishes, and I just thought, this is the coolest thing ever. There's never been anything I've seen that even remotely comes close. I'm
gonna date it. The first time I saw Wishes was in 8th grade, and we had booked dinner at the same time as we were down there at the same time as my boyfriend's family, my little 8th grade boyfriend. And so we went out on the balcony and watched Wishes. So that's okay. So that's, yeah.
I'm all team. Now, I'll be honest. I don't believe I've seen the Happily Ever After, but I'm all about Wishes. I just can't imagine anything even coming remotely close to that.
So Happily Ever After, I am team Happily Ever After, but a lot of that is the magic of standing there next to my husband, and the narration is saying, reach out and find your happily ever after. This is where your story begins. If I ever get brave enough to get a tattoo, I'm going to get a quote from Happily Ever After.
Really? So I want to throw this out because I did forget about this, but my brother proposed to his wife with Tinkerbell's help at the Magic Kingdom. I did, and I remember now watching the video. Seeing the video that was done. So, just Disney is just one of those really cool magical places. And then to throw up Felicity's comment against, every night during her college program, Wishes, always number one. I absolutely love it. So
I do. Wishes has a very special place in my heart, but just because of the circumstances of seeing Happily Ever After, in the first week it was out, starting my Happily Ever After, it's got a special place. I was really sad that we couldn't watch it with Ellen. No,
I can understand that. So I will say, Annie, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I really do appreciate it. This is a great kind of first show back after being off for about 6 weeks.
I'm always happy to talk Disney. So.
I know. And this just talking about it gets me hyped and excited and happy. So this last segment, the rant and rave with Dave, just what are your final thoughts or parting thoughts you would like to leave people with regard to your love and your passion for Disney?
Give it a chance. If you don't think you're going to like it, I promise you there's something for everything. When Joe and I were dating and I took him, he swore up and down he wouldn't enjoy it. And there wasn't. Yeah. See, because listen, we got married really close together. Joe didn't think there was going to be anything for adults to enjoy, and he embraced the magic. It's one of the few places I feel like I can just be myself and be a giant kid and no one judges you for that. I can walk through the park dressed as Rapunzel with a tiara and people are like, oh my God, that's so cute. Like, it's not this, who's the weird Disney chick. So
no,
even Joe mentioned, and this is kind of I don't want to get too political, but with everything going on right now, he said, I haven't seen any Black Lives Matter in Disney. Like, there was no political, like, you didn't see any political shirts, nothing with the Black Lives Matter, nothing with Blue Lives Matter. Like, it really was just sort of this magical bubble where we could forget about the real world. And so we tried to drive back and there was no gas.
Well, it's funny because so many people were talking about, hey, man, there's no gas. And I was like, I'm still getting gas in Florida. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, we meant to stop at the border and fill up, but that was in the middle of Eleanor's 3-hour scream fest.
At the Buc-ee's, man. You got to stop at the Buc-ee's on the way out on I-95.
We just fallen asleep. We weren't stopping.
You got to get that Buc-ee's life in, man. Now that we have them in Florida, you don't have to worry about being in Texas to go to Buc-ee's. It's perfect. So
I follow there's a comedian I follow who's based in Florida, and he was talking about Buc-ee's, and he's like, "Aha, we have one too."
Well, I absolutely love Buc-ee's. So as we wrap up tonight, thank you again so much for being on. I just want to let people know. Let me go ahead and do a quick little screen share, let you know about the next guest coming on. Putting up his logo, I'm going to be talking with Tyrone Bennett. He is the local celebrity chef here in St. Augustine. He has his own podcast called The Hot Plate. I'm really excited to talk to him next week on the show. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, interesting cat, and I'm trying to get him to do maybe a cooking demo on the show. Yeah, so those of you, maybe next week you could turn in and maybe get a chance to see the cooking demo. So Josiah, Felicity she said she was at Fantasyland Merch where she did her college program, Josiah. So maybe you guys can connect in that Disney life. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Annie, again, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation.
Oh, my friends, follow Rivera.
So yes, please like, share, follow. We're talking about all kinds of different things. Annie, again,
this is the professor I talked so much about.
Yes, I'm Rivera. I'm the professor. So, but no, thank you again so much for being on. I really enjoyed talking with you. This was such a good first show back. I was worried about just kind of being off, but this was so much fun just talking Disney with you. And thank you.
5 o'clock coffee.
I know. I saw you were drinking it. So I'm glad you're able to stay up. Now you could actually go ahead and get ready to get the kids to bed. So I don't know who this is, but
he's my coworker for the next 3 days.
Oh, next to
I'm leaving my job at the end of the week. So
so just going to be the full-time mom. That's an easy job, right?
Just switching jobs. This one is actually it's a little bit more flexible hours to allow for the mom life. So.
No, and I love it. Even Felicity stayed up, right? So I got two young moms to stay up past their bedtime and join. That's the magic of Disney right there.
I know. Right? I was like,
so, but thank you so much, Annie. I hope you have a good night. Everybody have a great evening. Hopefully we'll see you next week talking with Tyrone Bennett on The Hot Plate. But everybody have a good night. Please stay happy, healthy, and safe.